Good morning, everyone. I am Professor Amit Jadhav. Today we are going to see the Android controls, that is checkbox and radio button. In last lecture, we have seen the different Android controls like button, then edit text, image view, image button. These controls we have seen in last lecture. In this lecture, we are going to see checkbox and radio button. So the checkbox is used to select the multiple option from the given option. In Android, the checkbox is the type of two-state button, either uncheck or check in Android. So that means we can either check the option or uncheck the option. But we can choose multiple option in a checkbox. But in radio button, we can select only one option at a time. So you can say it as the type of on-off switch that can be toggled. That means we can either check or uncheck. When we click, it will check, and when we again click on that button, it will uncheck. You should use checkbox when presenting a group of selected options to the user that are manually exclusive. Compound button is the parent class of the checkbox class. We know that the different classes are there, like view class, and for the checkbox, the parent class is command button. So in Android Studio, we find the different controls over here, and in that the checkbox control is there. Here it is available, and that we can simply drag and drop on our screen. It has our different attributes and properties that we can set. So whenever we want to create a checkbox, the syntax for it as a, so here is the checkbox control. It's a single tag control. So here we write the XML code for the checkbox is checkbox, and we assign some properties. As we know that the ID is the essential property, we assign some value to it so that we can access the checkbox control. Then layout width and height is there. Here we assign the values wrap content to the checkbox, because whatever the text we write there, it will take space for that text only. And here we write the text, as we know that the text property is used to write for the checkbox, and there we write simple checkbox, so we assign the value simple checkbox to it. So this is an output of checkbox. Here we simply write the code and we get the output simple checkbox. And as we know that the empty rectangle is there, when we click it, the tick sign will be appear there, and when we again click on it, it will disappear. So there are some attributes of checkbox. Let's discuss one by one. First one is the ID. As I told you that ID is very essential attribute, and that we can assign for the checkbox or any other controls to access that control. So using ID we can access, we can get the value from checkbox. So ID is an essential property. We assign here some values to it, like a simple checkbox at the rate plus ID, and also we assign width and height, because without width and height the control will not appear on the screen. So width and height is also important for any control. Then second important property is check. So using check attribute, we check whether the current, what is the current state of the checkbox. If the checkbox is checked, then its value is true. If it is not checked, then its value is false. The value should be true or false, where the true shows the checkbox, the check state, and false shows that unchecked state of a checkbox. The default value of checked attribute is false because it's not selected. So the default value is false. We can uh, we can assign true value. If we assign true value, then checkbox get checked there. We can also set the current state programmatically. We can also assign it, the value to the checkbox true using program. So here we assign the check value equal to true. So whenever the checkbox display on a output screen, it will come along with the tick mark. So here is an example. Here we assign ID to it, width and height to the checkbox. We assign text simple checkbox to it and assign the value true for it. Then here we can access the checkbox using by creating its object. So checkbox simple checkbox is equal to find view by id r.id, and here we pass the XML ID of the checkbox, that is simple checkbox that we assign here only. We all know that because in last few lecture we discussed this thing. So here we can access the checkbox by creating its object and assign its ID. Here the R is the file, source file, and the unique ID for each and every control that is generated automatically in a resource file, and that we assign to the object of checkbox. Next, set the current state of the checkbox. So here we using code we can assign value to the checkbox. If we want to make the checkbox check, then through code we can do this. So this is an object of checkbox, that is simple checkbox. Here we created that and we assign set check attributes or the property for it, and its value we write true. So whenever this code we write in a Java file, it will create checkbox with check button. Then third attribute is gravity. We all know about the gravity. Gravity is used to display control at center position, at top position, at bottom position, at center vertical position, at left, right, as align. So for that we use the gravity attribute for the checkbox. The gravity attribute is an optional attribute because the compulsory attribute are width and height only, and other attributes for our requirement. So gravity is an optional attribute that we use to control the alignment of the text in a checkbox. So it is used to align the align the text, not the checkbox. So if we assign the property right, the text will display at a right position, not the checkbox. Okay. So where we assign the text, we can assign it by using its values like left, right, center, top, bottom, center, vertical, center, horizontal, etc. So here in example, we set its gravity. First, we set its ID, that is a simple checkbox. We assign its width and height, that is fill parent and wrap content. We assign some text to it, that is simple checkbox, and check value is true. And gravity, here we assign right, center, vertical. So here in output, we will find the text as a at a right center vertical position. Okay, so Android gravity, right center vertical. So this gravity is used to align the text for the checkbox. Or very common property, that is the text. The text attribute is used to set the text in a checkbox. We can set the text in a XML as well as Java class. So we can assign the text in XML file. That means for the designing at the designing, and as well as for the coding in Java files also. So here we see the example. So for checkbox, we assign the text here. Here it is, the text attribute of checkbox. Other properties are same as it is. ID is same, width and height is same. Then check is true. So here we assign the value true for it. So here in an output, we find the checkbox is check, and we assign the text attribute of checkbox. So it will display appear here. We can write it in the source code also. We create an object of checkbox. That is, for example, checkbox ch is equal to r.id dot the checkbox name, that is a simple checkbox, and ch dot set text, and we assign the value to it. So it will appear for the checkbox control. Next one is the text color. This is also common property which is used to assign color to the checkbox text. So text color we can assign here. As we know that in Android, we can assign the value in a hexadecimal format. So, or we can specify the RGB font also. So that value we assign to the text color. So here is the code. Here we create the checkbox text in a red color. So ID we assign, width and height we assign, Android text is red color, and here we assign the value to text color property. Android colon text color is equal to hash F00, and check value is true. So the checkbox will display along with the tick sign. So here we find the text checkbox text in a red color, and checkbox is get selected. Okay, so because of this property, that is text color. Then text size, this is also common property used to set the text size of the checkbox. So text size in SP or DP, generally we use for a font, it's in a SP, that is scale independent pixel, and DP is the density pixel. So let's see an example where we set the checkbox text size to 20 SP. Here is the code. Here we create the checkbox with the attributes ID, simple checkbox. Height, we assign the width and height, that is wrap content. We assign the text size attribute of checkbox. We assign the color hash 00F, that is red, and the check value is false. So the checkbox will come without tick sign, that is it's unselected, and Android text size 20 SP. So here we get the checkbox without that is without check, that is unchecked, and it will come along with the text size attribute of the checkbox, and here we assign the value 20 SP. Okay, then background is used to set background color to the checkbox. Background attribute is used to set the background of the checkbox. We can set the color drawable in a background of the checkbox. So here we create the checkbox with the following attributes. Our we focus on the background attribute hash 000. That means the background of checkbox is black. We assign some important attributes to it also. That is ID, width, height, then text, then text color, text size, text style. Text style is bold and italic. Assign the text size 20 SP here, and we assign the background hash 000, that is black. Here is so next let's see the program for the checkbox. So in this program, let's see the output. So here we give the text choose your hobbies, and four checkbox are there. So whatever the select by the user will display in a toast. Okay, so let's see how the designing perform here, as well as the source code for the displaying the following output. So let's see. So first let's see the designing. Designing part start from here, right? So as usual we use the linear layout because the output will display on the same line. So its orientation is vertical because the controls are vertically aligned. So here we start with the linear layout. We assign its width and height match parent. We assign the background the white color, then orientation is vertical. Okay, so here we start with the linear layout. As we have seen that there is a text view, in that we write the content we write the content, choose your hobbies, right? So for that, we write the following code. As we know that first we assign id property, then we assign width and height, that is match parent and wrap content respectively. We assign margin end at 8 dp. So margin at end, that give the space from the end 8 dp. Then from start also we have to give some space, so margin start equal to 8 dp. From top we required some space, so we use margin top property and assign value 48 dp to it. We write the text, that is choose your hobbies. So for that we use text property. Text size we assign 24 sp to it, and we assign some constraint here, constraint end of end parent, constraint start of start parent, and so it will match to the parent control. So after text box we assign the checkbox. Sorry, after text view assign the checkbox. We assign its property, property id property checkbox. Then we assign the width and height, wrap content and match parent and wrap content respectively. Assign the first checkbox with the text painting. We give the margin from the top, that is 16 dp, and text size is 18 sp. Same checkbox we generated after that. We just change its id from checkbox to checkbox 2. We assign width and height, that is match parent and wrap content. We assign the text reading, margin from top is 16 dp, and text size is 18 sp. Same we generated checkbox C. For that we assign the value match parent and wrap content, margin top 16 dp, and the text will display singing, and text size is 18 sp. After that we generate one more checkbox, that is checkbox 4, whose id is checkbox 4. Width and height, match parent and wrap content respectively. And hobby is cooking, so we assign the text cooking to it. It's margin top 16 dp, and text size is 18 sp. Then we generate the button with id button. Then layout, width match parent, height wrap content, margin from top 16 dp, and on click check function will call, and text is equal to submit. Here we close the XML file by closing the tag linear layout. Here we complete the designing. In that we have seen first the text view and the 4 checkbox control, right? And after that one button with text submit we design. After that we write the source code in a main activity.java file. So as we know that these files are already imported because we use in a program. So here we first declare an object of checkbox. As we use the 4 checkbox, the 4 object have created. For checkbox 1 it is ch, for checkbox 2 it is ch1, for checkbox 3 it is ch2, and for checkbox 4 it is ch3. Okay, after that so here we create an instance by using super.onCreate method. It's by default the activity generated whenever on create activity call. At that time the output display on a screen. After that, to bind main activity with its designing page, that is activity underscore main.xml file, we use set content view, and here we pass the name of the file with object r of resource file r dot layout dot activity underscore main. So to access the first checkbox, ch is equal to find view by id r dot id checkbox. Same we do for the remaining checkbox, that is ch1, ch2, and ch3. Here we use the find view by id to access the checkbox with its unique id. So here we create an object of checkbox and assign the value to it so that we can access it. So here, if the user click on first checkbox, we create means when the button press at that time, void check function get called because we write here on button Android on click check. So the check when we click on a button at that time, the check function get called. Okay, here we assign string variable with the blank value message. After that, we check first checkbox is click or not by using each check property. It's a boolean value. If the checkbox first is check, then its value is true, and it will open the checkbox and assign the value message is equal to message plus pending. So if the first checkbox get checked, then pending value assigned to it. If checkbox second is checked, then its value check value is true, and the checkbox one is checkbox one is checked and its value assigned to the message. We append the message by using plus sign. So if user click on painting and reading, we will get the output painting comma reading. If checkbox second is checked, then we append singing value to message. And if checkbox 3 is checked, then we append the cooking value to it. So here we check whether by using each check property, whether the checkbox get checked. If it is checked, then value become true. And if block get execute, if its value is false, then if block will never get execute. And after that, we create the toast dot make text this, and here the text what we want to display on a toast, that is message plus r selected, and its length is long, and dot show method we call. So it will display the text whatever the checkbox we have checked, and here we get the output. So if user selected all the checkbox and click on submit button, the toast will display with the following output: painting, readings, singing, cooking are selected. Okay. So this is the checkbox control that is used to take multiple options for it. So here we end with the checkbox. Next one is the radio button and radio group. So we have discussed just now the checkbox control. In checkbox, we can check the multiple option at a time, but in radio button, we can choose one option at a time. It is mostly used for the quiz or whenever we want to check, select the gender because its value is unique, right? So whenever we require the unique output, single output, then single option, then we use radio button. And if we want to choose multiple option, at that time we use checkbox. So let's see. In Android, the radio button are mainly used together in a radio group. So we use radio group because all the radio button comes under the radio group. If we are not using radio group, then we can choose multiple radio button at a time. So if we want to choose single radio button at a time, we must enclose it in a radio group. So in radio group, the checking the one radio button out of several radio button added, it will automatically uncheck all the others. So whenever we check one radio button, the other will be unchecked. So we can check one radio button at a time. It means one time we can check only one radio button from a group of radio buttons which belong to the same radio group. The most common use of the radio button is in a quiz Android app code where we want to select one option at a time. So here we can see the radio button in our toolbox. that appear in Android Studio in a left panel. There are number of controls are there, and we use the radio button. Radio button is a two-state button that can be checked or unchecked. If a radio button is unchecked, then user can check it by simply clicking on it. So same like a checkbox. If you want to choose it, if you want to select it, just we click on it. Then the control gets checked. Once a radio button is checked by the user, it cannot be unchecked by simply pressing on the same button. It will automatically uncheck when you press the other radio button. So it's like a toggle button. Whenever we choose one and again we click on it, it will not uncheck. Whenever we click on another radio button, it will be disappear. So important note that radio group is a widget used in Android for the grouping of radio buttons and provide the feature of selecting only one radio button at a time or from the set. When the user try to select any other radio button with same radio group, the previously selected radio button will automatically uncheck. I told you before this also. So if we are enclosing all the radio button under radio group, then which if we choose the one radio button, other will be disabled, other will be unchecked. And if we want to uncheck that, we have to click on the another checkbox. Okay, got it? So here is code. Before that, I want to say the common properties for the radio group or the radio button are for the radio group, we assign only width and height, and for radio button, the common properties are ID, then width, layout, height, then check property that we can use. So here is an example. Here we create the two radio button, but radio button without text. So for that, we start with the radio group, assign height and width to it, that is tab content. Then we create the radio button with ID simple radio button, its width and height, and we close the radio button. Then second radio button, same, only the ID is different. Radio 1, wrap content and wrap content, and we close the radio group. So here we get an output. Here we do not assign some text to it. So the radio button looks like this only. Only two radio buttons are displayed here without any text. And to check whether the radio box or radio button get check or not, for that we use the check property. You can check the current state of the radio button programmatically by using the check method. This method returns the boolean value. So whenever we use is check method to the check to the radio button, it will be give the boolean value. That means if the radio button is checked, then its value is true. Otherwise, its value is false. So this method returns the boolean value either true or false. If it is checked, then returns the true. Otherwise, returns the false. So let's see an example to check the current state of the radio button. So here we create an object of radio button simple button, radio button, and we access that by using find view by id r.id, and here we pass the id, that is simple radio button. Same we do for the, and to check its current state we use each check method. So here we get the state of the radio button. If it is true, if it is checked, then its value is true, otherwise its value is false. So let's see an simple example for the radio button. In this example, here simple two radio buttons are created without radio group, and here the two radio buttons created with the radio group. So for that we required total four radio buttons, one text view and one button and toast also. So let's see. First we design the page, and it's very simple. As usual, we use linear layout with the width and height match parent respectively. Required the orientation is vertical, so we assign vertical for the orientation. Then we want to display the text view with text single radio buttons. And here we assign its ID, that is text view 1, and the width and height, fill parent and wrap content. Its margin from top, that is we require some space from the parent. So here we assign the value 13 dp. We want it at the center position, so gravity center horizontal. We assign the text size 22 dp, and we want to display the text single radio button. Then we want to display radio buttons here. So the first radio button with ID radio button 1, width and height, fill parent and wrap content respectively, gravity center horizontal, text radio button 1, and margin from top 20 dp, text size 20 dp. Again we generate the second radio button with ID radio button 2, fill parent wrap content radio button 2, margin top 10 dp, text size 20 dp. Here we generate the view because we want to separate these two radio buttons. So we use view, its margin top 20 dp and height 1 dp, fill parent, and we give the background color. So the line will display between two radio buttons. After that we generate the radio button with a radio group. So for that we use the text view with ID text view 2, text view 2, and width and height, fill parent and wrap content respectively. We assign margin top 30 dp. We assign gravity center horizontal because we want to display it at a horizontal position, and text size 20 dp. Then we generate radio group, and inside that we add two radio buttons. So radio group generated with width and height, wrap content respectively. We give its ID radio group. Then we generate the radio button with ID radio male, fill parent and wrap content, its width and height respectively. Assign the text male, margin from top 10 dp, and its check value is false, and text size is 20 dp. We know about these properties. Text properties used to display the text margin top, distance from the top, that is 10 dp. Check value, check attribute is used to check or uncheck the radio button. We do not need to check it automatically, so we assign value false to the check attribute. Then we generate for the same female, we generate this ID, width and height, fill parent and wrap content respectively. We display the text female here. Then for margin we need some distance, so 20 dp. Then its check value is false and text size is 20 dp. Here we close the radio group. After that we want to display the button. So button with width and height, wrap content respectively, show selected, button get created, and ID slash button, and on click button method get call, and gravity center also. Here you must remember the value that we use when we click on the button, that is the on click button method. So here we write the source code. First we create an object of button and radio group. For button the object is button. For radio button, gender radio button, and for radio group its object is radio group. So here we create an object of radio group, and on click button method we call public void on click method uv. So here radio group get check radio button ID, and that is the selected ID. So whatever the check, whatever the radio button get checked, its ID is in selected ID. If selected ID is -1, that means no check, no radio button is checked. Then it will display the message in a toast, nothing is selected. For that we write the code toast dot make text. We want to display on a main activity dot this, nothing selected is the text, and its length is short dot show method get called. And if it is value is 0, that means the one of the checkbox get checked. Then we display the output using toast dot make text main activity is the name of the page dot this. Here we want to display the text of the radio button. So gender radio button dot get text and toast length short dot show. As we have seen for the both radio button, we have the same ID. That is gender radio button. If you want to check it, you can check it. So this ID we use radio group. Okay. So if whenever we want to access the control, we use get text so that the text will display on a test. And here we get the output. So two common radio buttons are displayed. Both we can select it because it's not under the radio group, and these two controls are under radio group. So these are check and uncheck. So if user click on a or check on a mail, the mail will display on a test toast. And if the user click on female and click on show selected, the female will be displayed. So this is the simple program for radio button. You can add your own logic here also. If you want to do it more effectively, you can do it in a practical session. So I'm not showing you this with practically because as you know that the Android will take some time to execute, and our Zoom meeting has a limit of 45 minutes or 50 minutes. So we are just showing you the source code. I will share this file with you so that you can run your program on your machine or the computer or laptop. If you find any difficulty, you can call me on my WhatsApp number, or we will arrange one meeting for you today at 12:30. If you have any doubt, you can ask me at that session also. So here we end the session. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.